Several times over this last year, we've looked at the framework through which we can examine the world. That framework that's laid out in the Bible of creation, fall, redemption, and restoration. That God created the world perfectly. He created humans perfectly, desiring a relationship with them. But then humans chose to disobey, and there was the fall, and the world itself was broken, along with the brokenness in the relationship between God and the people he had created, and between those people together. But immediately God's plan of redemption is working so that he can redeem the people out of the brokenness, out of sin, out of the consequences of the fall, and restore them to relationship with him, so that one day all things will be restored back to the way God originally intended them to be. And where we're living right now is kind of in that tension between the effects of the fall and God working out his redemptive purposes in the world. And so there is this tension between the bad things that happen, that cause us sorrow, that cause suffering, and the joy that we have in knowing Christ. And I think particularly at this time of year, it's difficult to live in that tension. When we feel like things should be happy, there's lights, there's music, there's Christmas trees, there's presents, there's families gathered, but we might ourselves sit in the brokenness of relationships, in the brokenness of death and the effects of death, in the brokenness of ill health. And so sometimes it's hard to feel joy in the midst of that. And so what do we do? I think first of all, we recognize that we have a Savior who understands. When we look at Hebrews chapter 12, and the writer to Hebrews is encouraging us to look to Jesus. He says this: fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus lived in that tension of despising what was going to happen on the cross, and yet looking forward to the joy that he was going to have when redemption was accomplished for the people that he loved. So he understands that. And I think that's helpful for us to know that while we celebrate this baby in a manger, he was the same person who understood that there could be joy and sorrow, that there could be pleasure and suffering, and that we could hold them both. And so I would encourage you today to remember that we are living in a fallen world. We are coping with the consequences of the fall, of sin. And yet we are also living in a time when God is working out his redemptive purposes, both in individual lives, but also in creation itself. And so feel all the feelings of living in that brokenness and sadness, but also be intentional about fixing your eyes on Jesus and the joy that was set before him, and the joy that is before us if we are people who have placed our trust in Jesus. Know that we are praying for you as we go through this Christmas season. We understand that there are a lot of hurting people in our congregation and in our world, but we know that we have a God who not only understands that hurt, but also gives comfort and can bring joy in the midst of it.